welcome to Broken Entertainment. So, I have been somewhat hard on George R. R. Martin in the past for not finishing his current book, not keeping his fans up to date, kind of calling out his fans for asking him when it's going to be done, and so on. And I asked the question in a previous video, does George R. R. Martin care? And I took a break from covering George R. R. Martin. I've been doing other videos, and thought about some of the comments that were left in that video. A lot of you guys interacted with it. It was great. You had a lot of good things to say, and I was particularly interested to hear from people who liked George R. R. Martin's work because, as I have said before, I'm not really a fan personally, and who thought maybe I was being too difficult on him or what have you. And a lot of people said, hey, maybe he just has writer's block. Or maybe he is feeling overwhelmed, which is essentially what writer's block is anyway. And the more I started thinking about it, the more I'm like, that makes some amount of sense. It is entirely possible, given everything he has taken on, that he has just buried himself in stuff. And as writers, at least I know for me personally, when you get buried in stress and stuff, your writing slows down, sometimes dramatically, because it's hard to get into the right mindset. It becomes less of a joy and a distraction and more of, oh yeah, I gotta get that done today too. And there's some legitimate thought to that. Certainly. But as I read one of his more recent blogs, and as I think about what people said in the comments, and as I keep an eye on another significant fantasy author, Brandon Sanderson, I have come to realize that yes, he has absolutely buried himself, but there is fault to lay at his feet for how he has interacted with his fans and how he has dealt with this entire process, and for all the stuff that he's dealing with. Some of it's out of his control. He talks about losing friends and so on. That's not something within his control. Signing 5 deals with HBO Max, buying a railroad, editing other people's books, that's within his realm of control. And he's not giving Winds of Winter the #1 priority slot in all of this stuff. At least that's how it comes across to me. But I think he could clear it all up with some clarity. Just be upfront. And I want to show you, before I get into this, I want to show you a brief part of a video from Brandon Sanderson. He does a weekly update. And I want to show you how another author is dealing with it, because he has a lot of projects too. And not every author approaches things the same way. That's not what I'm saying. But I want to show you what I mean when I say George R. R. Martin could handle this in a better way and communicate to his fans in a way that makes it clear, at least for them, okay, I know there's progress being made. Other than, oh, I wrote pages, that's not, hundreds of pages isn't much in a 1,000-page book. You know what I mean? So let's take a look at this video from Brandon Sanderson real quick, and you'll see hopefully what I'm talking about. And again, I'm not saying everybody needs to be like Brandon Sanderson. I would love to be able to put out books that fast myself. Not everybody's like this, but it's an example of the clear communication that we're lacking with George R. R. Martin, and that is, I think, the source of a lot of fans' complaints.
I have finished the pre-writing for the Moss Metal, the 4th Wax and Wane book. I am ready to start writing. In fact, by the time you get this, I'm recording this on Friday this time. By the time you get this, I will probably have spent Monday writing new material. So we can make the progress bar go to 100 for the pre-writing, and we can begin the progress bar on the actual book. Last week, in the weekly update, I asked a question: which of the two does...
So, as you can see, he says immediately, okay, this is where I am. I have finished the pre-writing, which is outlining and so on, and I am going to begin the first draft. Like he calls it draft. Some people call it draft 0. I think he refers to it as draft 1.0 in this particular segment. That's the roughest draft, right? That's where you write it and then you go back later and go, ooh, I need to fix that. It's that first telling the story to yourself, as Stephen King puts it. This level of clarity is very helpful as a Brandon Sanderson fan. I know where he is. I don't know everything that's being done, but I know where he is. I know he's working on it. It would be easy for him to have said in the beginning, okay, I'm working on Wax and Wane. And then never say anything about it again, except occasionally saying, I've made progress on Wax and Wane. That's essentially what Martin is doing. He's saying, I have worked on Winds of Winter. Well, okay, but where? Where are you in this process of working on Winds of Winter? And that's where a lot of fans are getting, at least I think, are getting frustrated because they've been waiting, I think it's 11 years now for this book. Man's getting old, he's not in good health, there's another book to write. And each consecutive book has taken longer to come out. So people are worried, understandably. And do they pressure him too much? Maybe. But he puts some of that on himself by not just being honest with people and saying, this is what I'm looking at. And I saw some comments in my previous video where people said, maybe he's just at a point where he can't really finish it anymore. He doesn't have the drive, or there's too much pressure and he's not really willing to do it anymore. And if he would just come out and say it, that would go a long way. And I think there's some truth to that. But there's all this stuff that he's put on himself. I don't feel sorry for him. I feel sorry for him for losing friends. That's out of his control. But I have a hard time crying for a guy who is making a couple million more dollars because he's signed up with HBO Max and isn't finishing his book or communicating clearly with his fans. This blog that we're going to go over here is clear as mud. But it does highlight some of the problems that he's facing, some of the pressure that he has on top of him. So, this is way back when on LiveJournal, when I started this column or journal or whatever it is, I called it my not a blog because I could see that regular blogging was a lot of work, and I didn't think I had the time to devote to it. I was late on a book even then, though I do not recall which one. Figured I'd just make posts from time to time when I had an important announcement, when the mood struck me, or whatever. Somehow, though, over the decades, the Not a Blog became a blog, and what I had intended as occasional pleasure and a way to stay in touch with my readers has become a blog, ironically at the same time as everyone else is abandoning their blogs for Facebook and Twitter, complete with a sense of obligation. And when a lot of stuff happens very fast, I fall further and further behind. Okay? The key sentence, because he's saying he's falling further and further behind. What is he behind on? Winds of Winter. I'm hugely behind right now. Again, what is he behind on? Winds of Winter. He's not talking directly about Winds of Winter right here, but this is his signal, and this is what I'm talking about. He's not just up front with people. He could just say, with everything going on, my work on Winds of Winter has slowed down again. Even that would help to an extent. The prospect of trying to catch up is feeling increasingly oppressive. And this is where I say, when he says feeling increasingly oppressive, that he may have lost it. He may feel like Winds of Winter now it has gone from, boy, I really want to write this book, it's a great story, it's going to be a lot of fun, to, oh God, this is a lot of work. And I think there's that point for a lot of authors where you get partway through a process and you're like, oh, do I have to do that? Do I have to work on that today? And, you know, we're all human beings, but at the end of the day, it's important to push through that, because if you don't, what are you doing? You're working on this 1,000+ page book and you're feeling oppressed because you're so far behind and you got to catch up, but then you keep doing more things to put you behind. And if you don't push through that feeling, you will never finish the book. My life has become one of extremes these past few months. Some days I do not know whether to laugh or cry. So he's going to go into some stuff about his personal life. I don't want to go there. And he says, if you've read the stories about me on the internet, you'll know my good news. I have a new 5-year deal with HBO to create new Game of Thrones successor shows and some non-related series like Road Marks. So, for both HBO and HBO Max. I've heard that this is an 8-figure deal, which wouldn't surprise me. I'm sorry, I don't feel sorry for you. I mean, come on, man. You're talking about feeling oppressive because you have to catch up, and then you're talking about a new 5-year deal to make a bunch of TV shows, and you're making more millions of dollars. I got nothing. It's an incredible deal, an amazing deal, very exciting, and I want to tell you all about it, although it seems the press has already done it. There are stories in all the trades. On the other side, and this is where he gets into his personal life. Honestly, it's hard to more personal life. There's a lot more going on as well. Meow Wolf stuff, Railroad stuff. Beastly Books is reopened, but the JCC is still shuttered. The Jets traded Sam Darnold away. I'm going to be leaving my cabin in a couple of months. I'm close to delivering Pairing Up, a brand new Wild Cards book. Where's Winds of Winter? Doesn't talk about it. But if we go up here, we'll go back up here. I am hugely behind right now, and the prospect of trying to catch up is feeling increasingly oppressive. Well, just communicate a little. I think that's all anyone is asking. Really. I mean, yeah, everybody wants the book, but you gotta say something at this point other than I'm feeling oppressed by being behind. I mean, okay, but when are you going to tell people something useful? And that's where a lot of the fan anger and backlash is coming from, I think. And in one respect, I do feel for the guy because I understand all authors go through periods of time when they're just like, oh, and somehow I have to write. I've been there. I'm sure Brandon Sanderson has been there. Stephen King has been there. Everybody that does this has been there. But at some point, 10 years, 11 years, to finish a sequel, you know, it's one thing when it's your first book. Brandon Sanderson famously took 13 years to write Way of Kings, which is not his first book, but it was the first book in the Stormlight Archive. It took him 13 years. The difference was nobody was waiting for it. My first book has taken me 10 years to get to where I am now, and a lot of that was not putting in the time that I need to put into it. I was just working on it when I had convenient opportunities instead of what I'm doing now, which is almost daily. But George this is the equivalent of Brandon Sanderson taking 10 years to write Rhythm of War, which he didn't. I'm just saying. Rhythm of War is the fourth book in the Stormlight Archive. This is a book in a series, and it's not the first book in a series. People have waited 10 years. And you've got one more to go. And you're not being clear with people. So yeah, there's going to be some fan backlash. Because at this point, they're frustrated and they're angry. Because they feel like, man, I put all this time into reading this series and thought it was really great. And I got really into it. And I watched the TV show, and the TV show had a terrible ending because you weren't involved in the ending. And then you still haven't finished the book. And now I feel like I've wasted my time. I hear that from fans all the time. So, this takes me to another post on his blog. This one is older. This is the last time he updated anybody on Winds of Winter. And what does he talk about in almost this entire post? This is the thing. When you are excited to write something, you talk about it. Or you want to talk about it. When you're not excited, it doesn't really come up. And this is all he ever talks about is everything but Winds of Winter. You know, he's talking about his work editing these different books. He's talking about TV shows. He's talking about different releases and stuff that he's doing. And then you keep reading. He talks some more about COVID because he has to mention COVID every freaking blog. And you keep going. He's talking about HBO. And more HBO. And more HBO. And you get all the way down to the bottom of the blog. I need to finish Winds of Winter. Does that sound like to you somebody who is excited to be writing this book? Or does it sound like to you somebody who's like, yeah, I guess. I do not have a problem with George R. R. Martin. I have a problem with the way he communicates with fans. You know, so I don't want you to listen to this and think, oh, this guy just hates George R. R. Martin. I don't. I don't like his writing, not because I don't think he's any good. It's just not my style. That's okay. I just don't like the way he's treating his fans. I don't like the lack of communication. And I see it come up time and time again. People going, is Winds of Winter going to be done? Is Winds of Winter going to be done? And after my last video, I've just been trying to figure out what is going on. Is this guy, does he not care? I don't think it's a caring problem. I think he has gotten, first I think he got a little bored and he wanted to take a little bit of a break. Then I think he piled all this stuff on top of him and more fan pressure came in and he just kind of slowed down even more to where he's just, there's too much. He's trying to draw all this stuff together. He's famously not a plotter, so that's extra work in the writing stage and in the editing stage to tie everything together and hold it together in a satisfying way. On top of that, his fans are pressuring him all the time. People are making YouTube videos saying maybe he doesn't care. And he's aware of all this. We've seen him comment saying his fans, that assholes on the internet will try to jump on him for not making his predicted release date. And he's way past that now. Just as a reminder, that was going to be last year. early last year. So this is kind of where I think the comparison comes in. Not just to Brandon Sanderson, but to authors in general who are excited about what they're doing. I think he is excited about what he's doing, but he's excited about the TV stuff. He's excited about his Railroad. He's excited about editing these other books. He's not really that excited about When's the Winter. The pressure's on, time is on, and and the unfortunate thing is, if that's all true, even if Winds of Winter gets done, good luck with A Dream of Spring. Even the way he says, once more into the breach, dear friends, Westeros beckons. It's like he's working. So this is where I think things have gone off the rails. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you think the pressure has been too much, if you think he should communicate better, let me know if you're a big fan of his and what you would like to see. If you like the video, please hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. Hit the bell for notifications, and I will see you next time.